Welcome back to our St. Louis Blues rebuild in Franchise Hockey Manager 11. We're nearing the end of February and the trade deadline is on the horizon, and we are at the best that we've ever been with this team. 36 wins, 19 losses, and 10 overtime losses, which if you look at it, it's pretty close to our highest in terms of wins, but it's definitely our highest points as of yet. But we'll look at some of the players and see how well we're doing. But I do see a conundrum that we're in. Right now, the team's kind of meshing well. I think everyone's kind of doing pretty decent, and the unfortunate reality, though, is that we might want to grab some players this year to maybe make a run on it, because I think we're pretty good in terms of our positions. Bolduc leading the way with 60 points, Lafreniere with 53, Thomas with 51, which seems a bit low for him, and then Martoni doing Martoni things with 48 points. Artemonov with 47, and Neighbors with 38. Neighbors kind of dropping off just a little bit, so he could be trade bait at some point. Just 38 is just not enough for us if he's getting top line minutes. I do see Artemonov possibly being our left winger of the future for sure on the top line. But Palika doing pretty well at 36 points. Dvorsky with 35. He's just kind of coming off an injury right now. And Villeneuve with his first season with us at 34. Dupont just below him as well with 28. So they're kind of meshing very well together. Currently, Dupont is 3.5 star potential, and Dvorsky doing well as well. Romani still doing pretty good despite having limited minutes, and Misa doing pretty good. I wouldn't mind him playing a little bit higher up in terms of the lines, but looking at our goalie stats though first, and I mean Trey Gustin just running away with this. 24 wins, 13 losses, and 5 overtime losses. 914 save percentage. He started off rough, but he's starting to improve. He is only 1.5 stars, but he is just a little bit better than Bechmelka. It bodes the question, is it better to be mentally good or I guess physically good? And Trey Gustin is definitely showing that his mental capacity is pretty well. It's showing only 4-star potential though, but 4 stars is good enough for us. I think he can definitely take this league by storm, and I would not be surprised if he ends up winning the Calder, or at least makes it interesting if he can maintain this pace. But currently we're going to look at where we are in the league, and we're currently 5th in the whole league, which is pretty wild when you think of it. And in terms of the Western Conference, we are in 2nd. So we did start off pretty slow, but we managed to turn everything around, and I do like where this team is headed. I do think that obviously next season is probably going to be the swan song of the seasons for sure. I did see Panarin here. Bouchard we could easily get as well, but I don't want to grab any players that's available to jeopardize potential that we have on the team. So like someone like Wall I could get. Like I could definitely see us getting him if he's kind of like our backup, but he's not making necessarily backup money. Like, and yeah, they wouldn't end up wanting anything anyways. I did look at Panarin, but they want a bunch of our players that we're not really wanting to give. We did try and start off with like a 4th rounder in Sear, but I don't really see them jumping at this. I did show the make this work though, and yeah, they want all our prospects, all the players that are doing pretty well. Like the fact that, honestly, I don't like the fact that it's like Dupont's there, and then Bolduc or Back. I'm like, they're completely different levels of players, so the fact that they're all kind of in that is a little bit irritating. I think they should kind of change it up just a little bit, but I'm going to see if we can manage to get something. We have a decent amount of picks this year. We're obviously going to throw some 5th rounders and stuff because, I mean, I think we're going to be in a spot that's going to be pretty decent. Obviously, they're never going to accept this, but I'm going to look at one more to see if they're willing to at least get one of our prospects, which could be good, could be bad. Obviously, I'd rather a more aging one, maybe Rasmus Rene, someone that might not play with us. They're not going to get it, so we'll take out the 7th too. Panarin's the only one that I kind of want though. Fyodorov, I don't really want to do Plankar. We're giving up all our left wingers for him. Yeah, and they're still not gonna want that. It's kind of ridiculous. A 36-year-old is not worth that much. I don't care really who it is, especially in the game. I don't really consider it to be an asset for sure. But looking at who else is available, I mean, Veleno, Velarde could be decent. I think we're pretty set at centers, obviously, in saying that I know that someone's going to get injured immediately after. But Nesterenko as well. But I mean, dealing with Detroit has kind of left a little bit of a bad taste recently. He has no defensive capabilities there. I don't know what it is with Europeans and not necessarily being the best defensively, or at least not in the game, which, I mean, it's still kind of crazy. Silov is available as well. I wouldn't mind a decent backup, though. So Stilov, we'll see what his mentals are off the chart. And they wanted exactly the same. Vijmelka, I don't think we can move down because we're paying him too much. Yeah, I don't think we can actually do that trade. Because then we'd have 3 goalies for no reason. And lefty we could use, but not good enough. I think we need 3-star at the moment. Kunin, I think left wing or lefty is kind of what we need, just more so for depth there. Jacob Pelletier, I remember having him at some point on another save. Henry Muse, also available. I think we did get rid of him though. No, we didn't. That's wild. I thought we did. Yeah, he's Calgary. Alright. I guess not. Svozil we've had before as well. I don't really see anyone. Like I said, Voronkov could be a candidate. Even, yeah, probably a little bit higher. We want at least 3 stars. 3 stars, if there's potential or they're young enough, that's not bad either. We're going to keep playing for now and kind of see where things land. 4-2 win there. Neighbors are many, Baldock and Baldock again scoring. But like I said, I don't want to do anything that jeopardizes the team that we have here. I think we're pretty set. We can kind of just let it ride out. And yeah, it doesn't really make sense to really jump the gun. But I do think that this year is definitely the last year that we're going to do our draft. We're just going to do more of a recap if we manage to make the playoffs this season and kind of go on a run. If we end up getting knocked out first round, then obviously we'll focus a little bit more on that and still show next year's draft. But if we end up doing pretty decent, the picks aren't necessarily that great, we're not going to necessarily invest too much over the next little while. We do lose 3-1 there, Martoni with the only goal. But we still could, just based on what kind of picks that we have. Looking at the depth chart, yeah, we do have a decent amount of second rounders, so we could do an episode of that. We do have a decent amount of force, yeah, so we could do it, but I think that's going to be the last one, because next year we don't have as many picks. We haven't really loaded up. We have a 3rd and a 4th, but we could start getting rid of some of our picks. Dupont, now top dog for sure in terms of prospects. Augustin, for whatever reason, dropping down to a 4-star. Max Penkins is still 4. Artemonov kind of dropped off as well. And Vernhoff I thought was a top prospect, but kind of good that we didn't end up pulling trigger on him. Chris Farreau is the casualty of this season of obviously having cap issues, because otherwise he probably would have been playing on the 3rd line, but obviously we had to reserve that to Ekblad. It'll be interesting to see who the free agents are next summer. I do think that it's going to be a bigger shift of what we have to do, and targeting certain veterans, I think, is going to be more on the agenda for next season. We probably just need 1 or 2 that pays over the next 2 years. As you can see, we have 43 million at this season. We'll have around 20 million next season. But looking at the cap, yeah, Faxa is non-existent on the team. He's basically just there for cap. And then Bocage, I think, wants to test free agency, so he could go, actually. I might want to trade him now, because he's not going to want to re-sign with us. Yeah, I think we can trade him. Bocage could be a good casualty for sure. Your stand, he can play left wing. Not as good, but he can still play left wing, and that could help us. But Bocage for him, yeah, they only want Dupont. There's no way. There's no way we would ever do that. Dupont, Bocage. Now let's see. They only want our best player. That is ridiculous. There's no way. And it's not even like he's that good. Like already Dupont's already at a level probably higher than him. Like they haven't even won anything. And I mean his cap's the only thing that's intriguing. David Kemp, decent defensive rating, but he is 58 star this season, so I don't know if I really want to get him. Wall, yeah. Wall, we can get Nesterenko, Kunin, but I don't think he's good defensive. Yeah, he's just good at hitting, more mental, but yeah, as you can see, he's not really good in terms of roles, which, I mean, not everyone really factors that in, but I 100% focus on the roles because I feel as though that obviously skills related upon that, but if they can't really play a role and they're playing a useless role, it kind of doesn't really make sense. O'Brien, though, yeah, and there's no one really that good, so we're going to kind of leave it at that. We'll let Bocage leave. I don't think we can really get anything for him. Maybe we end up trading him away. That could be an option as well. I don't think he's really playing that much for us, but... And we do have a decent amount of depth on right wing. So I'm going to see what they're calling for him. Kind of see that. I'll look at it in terms of players first. And yeah, 1.5 star, 2 star, 2 star, 2, 1.5, 2.5. Noah Cates. A left. You know, that one's actually not that bad. I mean, he's not grading that high though. But 2 million, no Cates for one season. It's not the worst trade I've seen. Obviously, I'd probably want something a little bit better than that. Cates is the closest one that I would consider. A third rounder from Vegas. Yeah, and their total rebuild. I think we're fine with that. We can bring up someone in his place. He was injured already for half the season. So we'll trade him to Vegas, who can probably afford him anyways. I think even if he ended up coming up, we wouldn't really want to pay him. So Gauthier, we're going to bring up Dzeko. I know he's injured, but we're going to put him on IR. Where's Dzeko? Is he already on IR? Oh yeah, we have Pekarsic that's already out. Why can't I find him? So I'll move him up to the NHL. I don't know why it was giving us a hard time before. We can... Is he already on the IR? He's not. Where is he? There we go. He probably was there the whole time and I just didn't see him. So we'll move him to the IR. So when he's healthy, he can come up. I guess Gauthier is probably the most likely one. Gauthier is going to get his opportunity in the NHL now. So all in all, not bad. I mean, I would trade Gauthier for Bocage just for that. But currently, easing into the trade deadline. And yeah, we didn't end up making any moves, so it's kind of disappointment. I think everyone was just asking for too much, which it's not a bad idea not to go for something that's not there, right? Just doesn't make sense. Artemonov's going to play on the second line here. And yeah, I don't know why Vijamelka's being rated higher. He's at an 80 grade compared to a 76, and they keep pushing for someone who's just marginally better. We went 3-2 there in regulation too, so Xavier and Dvorsky with the only goals there. Byfield gets 2 against us in the third, but doesn't really seem to matter. And now Martoni's hurt. Bruised kidneys 1 to 2 months. That is ridiculous. Alright, so another IR. So he's going to sit there probably until the playoffs, I think, at this point. And now we get to bring up someone else. At least we have depth, though. Kane McCann, we choose you. I guess Grayson Sachin's the other one. Snuggerud. Sachin's doing pretty decent in the AHL. He can play everywhere. We're going to give the nod to Sachin. Just more so for versatility. But we're dropping like flies. Probably our second or third best player is now injured for 1 to 2 months. He could obviously play through it, but you only get really like 1 game out of like 5. So not really a decision that we really want to do. I think we should still be in a decent spot for playoffs. So I don't want to rush him. I don't want to make any decisions either to really force it. Lafreniere is now going to get the top. Gauthier at the bottom. But I still don't mind the right wing. Sugar now getting the nod. So yeah, just kind of added depth for that. Dupont is now in the second line just for the time being. Vijamelka played a rare game here. And we win 6-3 though. Thomas, Dupont, and Lafreniere score. Neighbors, Lafreniere, and Artemonov end up getting on the score sheet. We now shift our sights towards Chicago on the road, and then we have to go back-to-back to Columbus. So still kind of wild. But since the trade deadline's over, we'll probably end up jumping after these 2 games and kind of see where we finish the season, and then jump to the playoffs and kind of see if we can manage to win. I think we're going to play it regardless. We'll have to look at the actual stats before we end up doing that jump, but I think we're more or less going to clinch it. We do lose 5-4 there, but an overtime win is still good enough. Bolduc with a goal. Dupont and Ekblad score before Dupont scores his 10th of the season. But after this Columbus one, I think 89 should be good enough to at least make wildcards. So barring that we end up losing every single game, I think we're going to be pretty good. So we'll jump to the end of the season and kind of see how the playoffs end up playing out for us. But Vijamelka is going to get the nod there. Artemonov second line, and then Dupont here. Now we see Columbus. Not sure how well they're doing. We did lose to them the first game that we played. We do get a shutout there, so Vijamelka with a shutout. 24 goals for Artemonov, 27 for Thomas, and Neighbors with 10. So let's jump to the end of the season and see where we stand there. But I think we can manage to solidify the second place there. So let's jump to the end of the season and see where we are. So we managed to finish the season with 106 points, 47 wins, 23 losses, and 12 overtime losses. 12 overtime losses is pretty crazy though. But we did hit team highs, obviously, in terms of points, team highs in terms of wins. I'm not sure in terms of what the most of franchise wins are, but I'm sure it's pretty close to that. I don't know if they got 52, I think, in 2013, 2014, so pretty close. Probably like a top 3 season or top 4 season as what it looks like. So all in all, not too bad, at least in terms of the regular season. But unfortunately, we did play through the playoffs here. We'll go more in terms of how well we finished in the regular season versus everyone else. But we did manage to at least beat Winnipeg in round 1. We managed to go to game 7, but ultimately we end up losing to Blackhawks 4-0. And then Blackhawks end up getting beat by Preds, and then Preds won their second championship against New York Rangers, though. New York Rangers managed to beat Carolina, They managed to sweep Columbus and then sweep Ottawa before ultimately losing to Nashville. Though it did force Game 7, so the East isn't the weakest for sure. But still find it funny that Toronto, Ottawa were considered to be the favorite to win, and Toronto obviously finished in wild card spot, ended up getting completely destroyed by Buffalo. But I think Buffalo is pretty crazy in this as well. I think Ottawa as well is pretty broken. New York has always been labeled as a good team as well. Same thing with Blackhawks. I think Blackhawks will probably be one of the teams to beat in this whole series anyways. Unfortunately, I did record most of this, but once again, the sound is still proving to be issues in terms of the recording. So ultimately, this is going to be a recap one. Unfortunately, it wasn't. It only worked for the first part, but the second part didn't quite load. So we didn't get to kind of go through the the road of us doing this, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. We weren't really expecting us to win any championship this season, but we're just more so happy to make strides and make the playoffs, though. But we'll go into the stats of how well we finished in terms of every other team, and then we'll kind of go more so in terms of how our players end up doing and what we're going to have to do next season. But finishing even first in terms of the West, and still managing to win our first series is still a pretty good accomplishment, especially year 4 of this save. But we'll look in terms of the league. Total league, we finished in 3rd spot, but I do think the overtime losses are definitely a factor with that, because ultimately we were 47 and 35, so still decent, still probably around 65-70% win rate, which isn't too bad, but obviously we want more. Our home record was definitely the flex, though. 27, 10, and 4 is pretty good. But yeah, obviously the losses, we were in the negative in terms of that. We won 20 and then ultimately lost 21. We did get points for them, and we were 5 wins, 6 losses, and shootouts, which is still pretty wild. But in terms of the division, we did finish the top of the division and the conference, but ultimately top 3 spots. So obviously our picks aren't going to be that crazy this season. But taking a look at where everyone kind of looks, and DuPont managed to get 3.5 stars. Thomas is around 3.5. We did have some injuries throughout the course of the season, as you could see. Martoni ended up getting injured a little bit. 68 points, 68 games, 51 points, but obviously still pretty good in terms of a rookie. None of our players end up getting nominated for Calder or anything like that, so that is the unfortunate reality of this. But Bolduc finished with 72 points, which is nice to see, because he hasn't really gotten top line opportunities. So the fact that he has 72 points means that he might be pretty close to being ready. Maybe Thomas ends up moving to the right at some point. Who knows? Lafreniere finished second with 66, so definitely getting his money's worth for that. Thomas with 64, so a little bit less than what I would have wanted, but might be his role that we're not really featuring yet. But obviously, it should improve over the next little while. But Thomas now at 28, he still has a couple of years on his contract, so if we feel as though we need to move on from him, we definitely will consider that. But I think for now, we're going to obviously keep him. But Artemonov with 58 points is pretty crazy for it being his first season. Does look like he should at least develop in terms of our top left winger, I would say. Neighbors with 54 points. I would expect more from a top line left winger, though. And then Holloway with only 48. Holloway again might be, between Holloway and Neighbors, one of them might be the odd man out if we want to kind of grow this team. But Villeneuve 45 and Dvorsky with 43 and Dupont with 43. So to start this off with 43 points for the 19-year-old is pretty crazy. Palika with 42 and Romani still with 36. A little bit less than what he did last year, but still pretty good. Broberg only with 28, and he has a 63 grade, so that's a little bit towards the bottom. Misa with 27 points in 81 games. Maybe he's not getting enough ice time. Definitely want to see him improve though. But we'll take a look at how well we did in the playoffs. Then we'll take a look at the goalies. But Misa, again, like I said, needs more game time. 12:51 and managed to get the top points for us with one game less. Rotoni in second, and then Venna with in second as well, with 9 points in 11 games. Owen Back managed to get 8, but I don't think he's going to be our long-term option at center. He might move down to the third or fourth line, which is kind of where I want him until his contract expires, probably, because he'll be around 32. Probably when that happens. Lafreniere with 8 points, and Dvorsky and Artemonov with 8, as well as Neighbors. Bolduc's production throughout the regular season wasn't as good in the playoffs, as he only got 7 points in 11 games, and Thomas didn't show up where I'd expect him to be. 6 points in 11 games is not going to win you anything. So taking a look at our goalies in the regular season, Augustin managed to hold his own. 55 games played, 32 wins, 16 losses, and 7 overtime losses. A 912 save percentage, but ultimately the goals against is a little bit high for my liking. So I think we need a bit more focus on defense. 306 and 307. Vijmelka, who probably we won't sign him next season because we did sign him to a ridiculous contract. But 15, 7, and 5, and a 910 save percentage is still pretty good. We'll take a look at how well they did in the postseason. And playoffs, yeah, Gustin was only 4, 4, and 1, and 888 save percentage, which is pretty atrocious for playoff hockey. Definitely need a little bit more than that, but he is still a rookie. He is still learning. He is only 1.5 star. If we can get him to 4 stars, I will be ecstatic, because I think 4 stars is probably all you need for a goalie. Even 1 star, or 1.5 star, you saw how well we did throughout the regular season with them. Vijmelka only had 2 starts, loss and overtime loss. So ultimately, his save percentage was good, but the results still weren't there. 451 save goals against average is pretty bad, I will say that. Looking in terms of our depth for our team, though. Good thing Vernhoff didn't end up getting the nod. He did move to being the 4th best. I think Ekblad, we might have seen enough from him. He's not quite playing as much. Chris Farrow didn't really get the opportunities, obviously, because contract issues. But I think Broberg moving down in that Kiersey, we gave every opportunity to develop, and it looks like he did take that 63 grade throughout the season. 21 points, though. That's pretty good. It was 17 ice time. He did get injured towards the end, so we didn't really get to see him that much in the playoffs, but we'll see what ends up happening with some of these players. Max Penkin could be a candidate to get moved up. Who knows? Jekko we might end up having to part ways with, and Olsen might be the time that he ends up starting as well. Meyer's still probably another season away, and we might have to start Ricard, even though we might not want to, but it's all about development and where they're ready for it. But we do have a decent amount of depth here, even as you can see as we go all the way down. Even Sear is probably good enough for NHL ready, so we do have a lot of players that could develop, but we might not have the time or patience for all of them, so we'll have to kind of look at it next season. We will come back for the draft, though. This will probably be the last draft that we do show, just because we look like we're more of a playoff hockey team, and we're going to kind of focus on developing the players that we have necessarily than acquiring picks. So we'll kind of start shifting that as the series goes on, but we do have contracts that we're going to have to be paying, and I think next year we have around 20 million that we have to play with, but obviously players like Broberg won't get an extension, so he might leave next season. Ekblad, kind of the same thing. So we'll have to take that in mind, but I do think this is the make or break part of the series. We do need a backup goalie. Augustin's going to get extended as well. And even in terms of defense, we do have most of them locked up for quite some time. But Kiersey is going to want a contract, and Liljegren will probably end up letting go or trade, and Lindgren probably played his last snap with us for sure. Janicek will have to consider, but 3.5 is not that bad. The fact that we're only playing 22 million this season and 22 million next season is still pretty good. But you see the drop goes down to just 9 million after that. So Palika is going to be making 4 million next season. So it means that we can probably move on from one of those. We're not going to be as cap stricken, I don't think. And then next season for forwards is going to be around 41 million as opposed to 38, but still needs some acquisitions as well. Fax is going to be leaving us for sure, but we still need extensions for Misa, Bolduc, and Holloway as well. We need to make a decision on whether or not we keep him long term, but it does look like we probably should. Shergott should get more opportunities next season as well. But looking at our team, yeah, Martoni is going to get an extension for sure, and Artemonov as well. So it's going to be make or break this offseason. I think that there should be a decent amount of free agent options, I'm hoping, but we do need a backup. I do think we need like the contracts that actually matter instead of just trying to fill the cap space. But I do like the strides that we managed to do this season. Once again, I apologize for the recording not quite going through, but we'll definitely be making sure that this doesn't happen for next season and the seasons that follow. But we should be good for that. Again, we didn't go that far in the playoffs, so I don't think it really mattered too much. But the recap should be good enough. But I do like where this franchise is headed, and the fact that we managed to start getting into the winning ways is pretty good. But before we end up logging off, we'll end up showing just how many points we have and what kind of our record is overall. We'll kind of do this every season. And then just kind of see all the positives. We are currently 500, roughly. I would say 146 and 150. So despite the struggles of the season, and being in a rebuild this whole time, we still managed to maintain pretty close to a 500 record amongst 328 games, which is still pretty decent. We did get nominated for GM and Coach of the Year, so we'll have to kind of wait and see whether or not we end up getting it. But the fact that we're now in the positive with 47 wins there, I do think the sky's the limit of this team. I do think we'll definitely take it in stride for next season. But hopefully you guys like this series. Leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment in the comment section for whatever you want to see or any kind of suggestions that you have for me. But thank you for watching. Until next time.